In a move that could redefine global digital politics, the United States and China have reached a framework deal on TikTok, potentially shifting the popular short video platform into US-controlled ownership. The announcement came after high-level talks in Madrid and arrives just days before a US ban deadline was set to take effect. This deal, while still tentative, marks a significant turning point. For months, Washington had been pressing Beijing-based ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, to divest its US operations over national security concerns. The fear in Washington was simple but profound: that Beijing could use TikTok's vast data troves to compromise American citizens or even influence political narratives within the United States. But the stakes go beyond one app. TikTok has become a symbol of the broader struggle between two global superpowers, the United States and China, each vying for influence in the technological and economic spheres of the 21st century. The Madrid meeting was the culmination of weeks of preparation. It was framed around consensus built during a recent phone call between US President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping. From the start, officials made it clear this was not just about TikTok. It was about the rules of digital engagement between the world's two largest economies. A Chinese spokesperson set the tone with a carefully worded statement. Both sides actively implemented the important consensus reached during the phone call between the heads of state of China and the United States. They fully utilized the China-US economic and trade consultation mechanism, and on the basis of mutual respect and equal consultation, engaged in candid, in-depth and constructive exchanges on issues of common concern, including TikTok. For Beijing, TikTok is more than a commercial platform. It is a symbol of China's growing technological influence, one that the US is seeking to contain. That is why, throughout the talks, Chinese negotiators emphasized their opposition to political interference. As they put it, regarding the TikTok issue, China consistently opposes the politicization, instrumentalization, and weaponization of scientific, technological, and economic and trade issues. China will never seek to reach any agreement at the expense of its principled stance, corporate interests, and international fairness and justice. That sentence alone reflects Beijing's long-standing frustration. To China, Washington's pressure on TikTok looks less like a legitimate security measure and more like an attempt to kneecap Chinese innovation. But despite the tensions, the Madrid talks produced progress. Both sides agreed to a framework, still general, but concrete enough to stave off immediate crisis. A Chinese official described the outcome this way: during this meeting, both sides engaged in candid and in-depth exchanges regarding TikTok and China's relevant concerns. They reached a basic framework consensus on cooperatively resolving relevant issues such as TikTok, reducing investment barriers, and promoting relevant economic and trade cooperation. This is not the final word, but it's a start. The framework reportedly envisions a US-based entity that would oversee TikTok's American data operations, subject to US regulatory oversight. ByteDance could retain partial ownership, but without direct control over how American data is stored or managed. For Washington, this arrangement addresses national security fears. For Beijing, it prevents a complete forced divestment, yet both sides remain wary. American officials have long argued that China's approach to technology is tied to state power, and TikTok, given its reach and algorithmic influence, cannot be treated as a neutral player. China, in response, accused the US of weaponizing the language of security. The Chinese side declared, the US side has generalized national security concerns and continuously expanded its sanctions list against Chinese entities. Its long-arm jurisdiction has reached deeper and further. This is a typical act of unilateral bullying which violates international law and the basic norms of international relations. That blunt accusation underscores the fragility of the truce struck in Madrid. Beijing is signaling that while it is willing to compromise, it will not accept what it sees as American overreach. The symbolism of Madrid cannot be overlooked either. Spain is a NATO ally of the United States, but also a country deepening its trade ties with China. Hosting the talks there allowed both sides to meet on neutral ground, away from Washington or Beijing, and under the watch of European diplomats who are increasingly positioning themselves as mediators in US-China tensions. The outcome of these talks is not just about TikTok. It is about setting a precedent for how disputes over global tech platforms are managed. For other multinational corporations, the case will be a model. If TikTok survives through a compromise framework, then companies caught in future geopolitical storms might seek similar solutions. For Washington, the talks are a chance to claim victory, that America has forced China to the table and secured protections for US citizens. For Beijing, it is a chance to argue that it defended its principles while preventing TikTok from being ripped out of the American market. But the road ahead remains uncertain. Negotiators must now turn the broad framework into enforceable, detailed terms. That will not be easy. The closer the agreement comes to finalization, the more the unresolved tensions about ownership, data storage, algorithm control, and legal jurisdiction will resurface. Still, for now, both sides are presenting the outcome as constructive. For the Chinese delegation, the final word was sharp but measured. China firmly opposes this and raised serious concerns with the US side during the talks. That sentence encapsulates the uneasy compromise, progress, but with caution. If the framework holds, the looming US ban could be avoided, sparing TikTok from being pulled off American app stores. That would be a relief not just for ByteDance, but for the millions of creators, influencers, and businesses that rely on TikTok as a source of income and cultural influence. A ban would likely trigger significant backlash inside the US, particularly among young voters. But this deal is bigger than one app. It reveals how central technology has become in global power struggles. Data, algorithms, and platforms are now at the heart of international diplomacy, as critical as trade deals or military alliances. Madrid may have bought time, but the deeper rivalry between Washington and Beijing remains unresolved. TikTok's fate shows how the competition is no longer confined to factories or trade routes. It is playing out on the screens of everyday users, in the invisible code of apps, and in the rules of global commerce. For the US, this moment affirms its determination to scrutinize Chinese tech firms. For China, it signals that its rise in the digital arena will not be uncontested. For the world, it demonstrates how a single app can become a flashpoint in the struggle for global influence. As negotiations continue, the world will be watching whether TikTok becomes a symbol of compromise or a casualty of conflict. One thing is clear: TikTok is no longer just a platform for viral dances and short videos. It has become a battleground for sovereignty, security, and the future of digital power.